You ever notice how quick people are to tell the world everything they're doing? A new job, a new plan, a relationship, a side hustle, posted online, talked about at dinner tables, whispered to people they barely even know. They announce every move before it's even real. But here's the thing, when you do that, you give away your power. You hand it over before it has a chance to grow. There's a reason the most powerful people you've met don't talk too much about what they're doing. They don't give you the details. They don't explain themselves. They just move in silence. And by the time you see what they've done, it's already too late to stop it. That's the level of control you need if you want to succeed. The truth is, most people don't care about your goals. Some may smile to your face, but deep down they're waiting to see if you'll fail. Some will even hope you do. And the moment you give them access to your vision, your next step, your dream, you also give them the opportunity to judge it, copy it, or destroy it. So let me ask you, how much of your life do you give away without even realizing it? How many times have you shared a plan only to lose the motivation to follow through? How many times have you told the wrong person something that should have been kept to yourself and later regretted it? See, silence isn't weakness. Silence is strategy. And if you want to protect your future, your peace, your goals, then you've got to learn this simple rule. Never tell people what you do until it's already done. When you start keeping certain things to yourself, you begin to realize something powerful. Silence is not emptiness. It is strength. It's a form of control. The moment you open your mouth and tell the world what you're working on, what you plan to do, or where you're headed, you lose a piece of that control. Words are energy, and once they're spoken, they no longer belong to you. They live in someone else's mind, and now they can use them, twist them, or even weaponize them against you. Think about it. How many times have you shared a plan with someone, and suddenly you felt less driven to actually make it happen? You spoke about it so much that your brain rewarded you as if you had already accomplished it. Talking gave you a false sense of achievement. And by the time you needed to do the hard work, your motivation had vanished. That's what silence protects. It protects your discipline. It keeps your fire burning inside instead of letting it leak out through unnecessary conversations. There's another layer to this. People cannot attack what they don't know. The fewer details you give away, the harder it becomes for others to sabotage you. The truth is, not everyone around you has good intentions. Some are quietly competing with you. Some are waiting for you to stumble. And others, if they hear your plans, will do everything they can to discourage you. Sometimes directly, sometimes subtly. They'll plant seeds of doubt in your mind. They'll question whether you're capable, whether your dream is realistic, whether you're biting off more than you can chew. And if you're not strong enough, their words will grow louder than your own belief. But if you remain silent, if you keep your moves hidden, they'll never have the chance to weaken you. Silence also gives you presence. It creates a kind of mystery that forces people to respect you, even if they don't understand you. Think about the people you admire, leaders, mentors, visionaries. The ones who stand out are not the ones constantly explaining themselves. They don't sit around giving speeches about what they're going to do next. They simply execute. And by the time you see what they've achieved, it's undeniable. That's the same energy you need to embody. You don't have to prove yourself with words. Let your results do the talking. You know what silence really protects? It protects your inner peace. Imagine telling someone about a dream you're building. Suddenly, you're flooded with opinions you didn't ask for. That's too risky. You should play it safe. What if it doesn't work out? And now, instead of focusing on execution, you're carrying the weight of their doubts. Those doubts may not even be about you. They're about them, their fears, their insecurities, their failures projected onto you. But because you opened your mouth, you now have to carry that baggage. Silence frees you from that. When you keep things to yourself, you keep your path clean. You only deal with your own thoughts, not the noise of everyone else's. There's also power in being underestimated. When people don't know what you're capable of, they can't prepare for you. They can't block you. They can't compete with you because they don't even know what race you're running. Silence lets you move without interference. By the time others realize what you've been building, you're already 3 steps ahead. That surprise gives you leverage. It allows you to operate in a way that others simply can't predict. Even in your personal life, silence is protection. Not everyone deserves to know what you're going through, what you're building, or what you're dreaming of. Some people are only in your life to take information. They'll ask questions out of curiosity, not out of care. They want to know just enough to gossip about you, to measure themselves against you, or to secretly hope that you fail. And here's the truth. If you feed those people information, you give them exactly what they're looking for. But if you hold back, if you smile and keep your business, you rob them of the opportunity to use your life as entertainment. Silence is not about being antisocial. It's not about cutting yourself off from the world. It's about discernment. It's about knowing when to speak and when to hold back. There's wisdom in understanding that not every thought deserves a voice, not every plan deserves an audience, and not every victory needs to be announced. Sometimes the best move you can make is no announcement at all, just action. So the next time you feel tempted to explain yourself, to share your next step, or to prove to someone that you're working on something important, pause. Ask yourself, what do I gain by telling them? What do I lose by staying silent? More often than not, silence gives you the advantage, because when people don't know, they can't interfere. When they can't interfere, you stay focused. And when you stay focused, you win. Remember this, your silence is your shield. It protects your dreams, your discipline, your peace, and your future. Use it wisely, and you'll discover just how powerful you really are. The moment you start opening up about your plans, the moment you begin telling people what you're doing, you invite judgment. It doesn't matter who they are, friends, family, coworkers, even strangers. Everyone has an opinion. And here's the reality. Most of those opinions will not serve you. They will either weigh you down, confuse you, or discourage you. The truth is, people are not neutral. They listen through the filter of their own experiences, insecurities, and limitations. So when you tell them about a dream, a vision, or a move you're making, they don't see it through your eyes, they see it through theirs. And what they often project onto you is not support, but doubt. Think about it. You might share with someone that you want to start a business, and instead of encouragement, they hit you with all the reasons it might fail. Do you know how hard that is? Most businesses shut down in a year. What if you lose money? What if it doesn't work? Now pause and ask yourself, are they really concerned about you, or are they projecting their own fear of failure? Are they really thinking about your ability, or are they remembering the time they gave up on themselves? When you open yourself up to judgment, you open yourself up to the limitations of other people's minds. And if you're not strong, you might start to carry their fears as your own. But judgment isn't the only danger. There's also envy. Not everyone who smiles at you is happy for you. Some people want to see you do well, but never better than them. They'll nod, they'll clap, they'll congratulate you on the surface, but deep inside they're measuring, they're asking, why not me? Why them? And when jealousy takes root, it doesn't always come out in obvious ways. Sometimes it's subtle, a backhanded compliment, a sarcastic remark, a sudden distance in the relationship. Other times it's direct gossip, criticism, or even deliberate sabotage. And the only reason they had the chance to react that way is because you gave them information you didn't need to share. There's another danger that often goes unnoticed. People copy. You tell someone about your idea, your strategy, your next move, and suddenly they're doing the same thing. Maybe they'll even move faster, take credit, or present it as if it were their original thought. It happens all the time in business, in careers, even in friendships. People take what you've exposed and use it for themselves. And while you're busy explaining your vision, they're busy executing it. By the time you realize it, they've already claimed a piece of your dream. That's what happens when you give too much access. And then there are those who deliberately undermine. They may not copy you, they may not judge you openly, but they'll plant little seeds of negativity that slowly weaken your confidence. You'll hear phrases like, are you sure that's for you, or that sounds risky, or I don't think people like us can do that. Notice how subtle that is. It doesn't sound like hate. It doesn't sound like envy. It sounds like concern, but it's poison disguised as advice. They are undermining you without you even realizing it. And here's the dangerous part. When you hear it enough times, you start to believe it. This is why the greatest mistake you can make is believing that everyone around you wants you to win. Some do, yes, But many don't. Some don't even consciously realize that they're against you. They're just acting out of their own insecurities. When you tell them your plans, you force them to confront themselves. Your ambition exposes their lack of it. Your courage exposes their fear. Your dreams expose their complacency. And because of that, instead of cheering you on, they attack, they copy, they undermine. Not always because they're evil, but because your light makes them uncomfortable. This is why protecting your vision is so important. Not everything deserves to be shared. Not everyone deserves access to your mind. There's a time to speak, but more importantly, there's a time to be silent. Because the moment you tell the wrong person the right plan, you risk losing both. Think of it like this. Your dream is a seed. It needs time in the soil to grow roots before it can survive in the open. If you pull it out too soon to show everyone, it dies. Your plans are the same. When they're still fragile, still forming, still developing, they need to be protected from judgment, envy, and sabotage. Once they've grown strong enough, once they've taken root, once they've become real, then and only then can they withstand the noise of the world. Until then, silence is your best protection. So ask yourself, how many times have you lost momentum because you talk too much? How many times did someone plant doubt in your mind because you shared a dream too early? How many times did you see someone else take what you thought of and run with it while you stood there empty-handed? If it's happened before, let that be the lesson. You don't need to announce every step. You don't need to give people a front row seat to your process. Let them see the final product, not the blueprint. People will always judge. They will always compare. They will always undermine when given the opportunity. But here's the good news. You control that opportunity. By choosing silence, by keeping your vision private, you strip them of their power over you. They can't judge what they don't know. They can't copy what they've never heard. They can't sabotage what they can't see. That is the gift of silence. It keeps your power in your hands, not theirs. At the end of the day, remember this, not every conversation deserves your truth. Not every ear deserves your story, and not every smile deserves your trust. Protect what you're building, because the world is full of people who, whether intentionally or not, will try to pull it apart the moment you give them access. There's something magnetic about a person who doesn't reveal too much. You've probably met someone like that before, the kind of person who speaks less, yet when they do, everyone leans in to listen. They don't rush to explain themselves, they don't announce their every move, and they don't feel the need to justify their choices. And because of that, they command a natural respect. Mystery has a way of creating gravity around you. It makes people curious, it makes people pay attention. When you tell the world everything you're doing, you strip yourself of that power. You become predictable. People can map out your thoughts, your behaviors, your habits. There's nothing left to discover about you, nothing left to wonder about. And when there's no mystery, there's no intrigue. People lose interest because you've already given them all the answers. But when you choose to stay quiet, when you hold back pieces of your life, you become harder to read. And that unreadability is what makes people take you seriously. Think about leaders throughout history. The most influential figures were never the ones who spoke the loudest about themselves. They weren't bragging about what they were going to do. They weren't flooding conversations with endless details. They moved strategically, spoke intentionally, and revealed only what was necessary. That air of mystery is what made them powerful. People respected them because they couldn't quite figure them out, and that respect often turned into influence. The same principle applies to you. If you constantly tell people your goals, your plans, your struggles, you give them too much access. You make it easy for them to place you in a box. But when you hold back, when you don't let people know everything about you, they're left guessing. They wonder how you think, how you work, what you're capable of. And that wondering creates respect. People naturally respect what they don't fully understand. Mystery also keeps you from being underestimated. If people think they've figured you out, they'll measure you based on their assumptions. They'll treat you according to what they believe you can or cannot do. But when you're unpredictable, when you don't reveal your hand, they have no choice but to approach you with caution. They give you more respect because they can't quite pin you down. In their uncertainty, they become careful with how they treat you. Now, mystery doesn't mean being cold or shutting people out completely. It doesn't mean living like a ghost. It means you're selective. You choose what to reveal, when to reveal it, and to whom. You give people pieces, not the whole puzzle. You let your actions speak louder than your explanations. You let your results be the announcement. That's how you maintain power. There's also another layer. Mystery raises your value. Imagine a person who talks nonstop about everything they're doing. At first, you might be impressed, but over time, their words lose weight. They've told you so much that nothing feels special anymore. Compare that to someone who rarely shares, but when they do, it's meaningful. Which one do you respect more? The one who overexposes, or the one who keeps you guessing? That's the difference between noise and presence. Mystery makes every word, every action, every revelation carry more weight. In your personal life, mystery protects your relationships. Not everyone deserves to know the details of your struggles or your victories. Some things are meant to be private, sacred even. When you hold back, you maintain control over your narrative. You decide what people know about you instead of letting them assume ownership of your story. And that control creates dignity. People can't use what they don't have. They can't twist what they've never heard. They can't disrespect what they don't fully understand. In your professional life, mystery creates authority. The coworker who keeps talking about how busy they are, how much they're working, how many projects they're juggling, they rarely inspire respect. But the one who quietly delivers, who produces results without fanfare, who moves with calm confidence, they earn admiration because people don't need to be told they're great. They can feel it. That's the power of mystery. You don't sell yourself with words. You prove yourself with consistency. Mystery also gives you room to grow without pressure. When people know every step you're taking, they begin to monitor you. They start keeping score. If you stumble, they notice. If you fail, they gossip. If you take too long, they start questioning your capability. But when you don't announce your process, you free yourself from that constant watch. You're able to fail privately, adjust privately, and succeed privately. And when you're finally ready to reveal, the result is undeniable. Ask yourself this: do people around you know too much about you? Do they have too much access to your thoughts, your plans, your inner world? If so, that might be why they treat you casually, why they don't respect your words, why they underestimate your value. You've made yourself too available. You've given away the mystery. If you want to shift how people see you, you have to shift how much of yourself you expose. Respect doesn't always come from speaking louder. Sometimes it comes from speaking less. Respect doesn't always come from showing more. Sometimes it comes from showing less. It's not about hiding. It's about protecting the parts of yourself that give you power. When people don't know everything about you, they're forced to respect the unknown. They're forced to pay attention. They're forced to see you as more than what you've revealed. So the next time you're tempted to overshare, to explain, to justify, pause, remember that every word you give away is a piece of your power. And once it's out there, you can't take it back. Hold on to that power. Let people wonder. Let them be curious. Let them respect the mystery you carry. Because when you master the art of not being fully known, you master the art of being fully respected. Talking is easy. Anyone can do it. You can sit with your friends, your family, or even strangers and explain your dreams, your goals, your plans in detail. You can talk about how one day you'll start that business, one day you'll write that book, one day you'll take that risk. And for a moment, it feels good. It feels like progress. It feels like action. But here's the dangerous truth. Your brain doesn't know the difference between talking about a goal and actually doing it. The more you talk, the more you trick yourself into thinking you've already achieved something. That illusion of progress can kill your motivation before you even take the first real step. This is why you have to train yourself to focus on doing, not talking. Action is the only thing that moves you forward. Results are the only thing that speaks for you. The world doesn't reward ideas, it rewards execution. You can have the greatest vision in your mind, but if all you do is share it with people, it dies as nothing more than words. What makes a vision powerful is not the explanation, it's the action that brings it to life. Think about the people you admire most. They're not the ones who constantly broadcast what they're going to do next. They're the ones who show you through their work. They don't waste their breath trying to convince you how capable they are. They let their results prove it. And when they finally do speak, it's not about what they're going to do, it's about what they've already done. That's the difference between talkers and doers. One seeks validation through words. The other earns respect through results. When you talk too much about your goals, you also invite unnecessary resistance. You tell people what you're planning, and suddenly they have opinions. They tell you it won't work. They ask questions that plant doubt in your mind. They may even secretly hope you fail. And instead of using your energy to move forward, you end up wasting it on defending yourself. That's the trap of talking. It drains the very energy you need for execution. But when you focus on doing, there's nothing to defend. You don't owe anyone an explanation. You don't need their approval. You're too busy building to stop and talk. Another thing happens when you replace talking with doing. You build momentum. Action creates energy. The first step might be hard, but once you take it, the second becomes easier. And then the third, each action fuels the next. Talking doesn't do that. Talking stalls you. It makes you feel like you've moved when you haven't. Doing, even in small steps, moves you closer every day. That forward motion is what separates those who achieve from those who only dream. And here's another truth. Results speak louder than promises. When you say you're going to do something, people might nod politely, but inside they're thinking, we'll see. They've heard it all before. Everyone talks. Everyone has a plan. But when you quietly put in the work and later show the finished product, it leaves no room for doubt. People can't argue with results. They can't criticize what's already proven. They may not like you, they may not support you, but they cannot deny the evidence of what you've done. Focusing on doing instead of talking also protects your confidence. Every time you take real action, you prove something to yourself. You create evidence in your own mind that you are capable. You don't need external validation because you're validating yourself with proof. But when all you do is talk, you leave yourself empty. You rely on other people's reactions to feel good about yourself, and that feeling never lasts. Action builds self-trust. Talking only builds dependency. There's a discipline in keeping your mouth shut and letting your work speak. It requires humility. It requires patience. But it pays off in ways talking never will. Because the truth is, nobody cares about what you say you're going to do. The world doesn't remember promises. It remembers achievements. Nobody will celebrate you for the plans you spoke out loud. They'll celebrate you for the results you produced in silence. So the next time you're tempted to share your vision with someone, stop and ask yourself, am I talking because I need validation, or am I moving because I want results? If it's validation, be careful. You're wasting your energy. If it's results, then silence is your friend. Let your work become your announcement. Let your success become your explanation. Every minute you spend explaining yourself is a minute you could have spent building. Every conversation where you talk about what you're going to do is energy that could have gone into taking the next step. Imagine what would happen if you redirected all that talking into action. Imagine if every time you wanted to explain yourself, you instead moved closer to your goal. Over time, the compound effect of those actions would transform your life. At the end of the day, words are temporary. People forget what you said. They don't forget what you built. So don't waste your breath telling the world what you're about to do. Let them find out when it's already done. Let them be surprised. Let them wonder how you did it. That's how you create impact. Not through talking, but through doing. One of the most valuable things you will ever own is your peace of mind. Without it, nothing else matters. You can have money, success, recognition, even influence, but if you don't have peace, you will always feel restless, drained, and unsatisfied. And one of the fastest ways to lose your peace is by letting too many people into your business. Every time you tell someone your next move, every time you explain your plans or expose your struggles, you give away a piece of your inner calm. Suddenly, you're carrying not only your own thoughts, but also the noise, the opinions, and the judgments of everyone else. Protecting your peace starts with understanding that privacy is power. When you keep things to yourself, you maintain control over your life. You don't have to answer questions you don't want to answer. You don't have to defend decisions that don't need defending. You don't have to waste your energy explaining yourself to people who may never truly understand you. You stay free, and freedom is priceless. Think about how heavy it feels when too many voices are in your head. You share a dream with someone, and they flood you with doubt. You talk about a goal, and suddenly you're met with negativity. You let someone in on your struggles, and now they watch you differently. That's what happens when you give away access. You trade peace for pressure. You start living under other people's expectations. You start carrying weight that isn't yours. That pressure can paralyze you if you let it. But when you stay private, you create a space where you can grow without interference. You protect the freedom to move, change, fail, and rise again without an audience. There's a reason why some of the strongest people you'll ever meet live quietly. They're not loud about their battles. They're not broadcasting their every success. They're not asking the world to validate their progress. They understand that peace is more valuable than applause. Freedom is more valuable than recognition. Because when you're at peace, you don't need approval. And when you're free, you don't need permission. Protecting your peace also means protecting your energy. Words are energy, and when you waste them on the wrong people, you drain yourself. You can't afford to keep explaining, defending, or arguing about your life with those who don't matter. Every time you do, you take energy away from what really matters: building, creating, and living. Silence conserves energy. It allows you to use your strength where it counts. Another layer of peace comes from the freedom to fail privately. People don't talk about this enough. Failure is part of growth. But when you share too much, you create an audience that watches your every step. And when you stumble, you don't just deal with your own disappointment. You deal with the judgment of others. That makes failure heavier than it needs to be. But when you protect your privacy, you give yourself room to try, to adjust, to fail, and to rise again without anyone else knowing. That freedom makes you braver because you're not afraid of being watched. You're not afraid of being judged. You're only focused on becoming better. Freedom also means flexibility. When you stop telling everyone your plans, you give yourself permission to change direction without looking inconsistent. You can pivot, adapt, or completely redesign your life without having to explain yourself. That's true freedom, living on your terms, not on the terms of the expectations you created by oversharing. And peace isn't just about silence toward others, it's also about silence within yourself. When you stop feeling the need to broadcast your life, you quiet the inner pressure to perform for an audience. You stop chasing recognition, and instead you chase growth. You stop living for approval, and instead you live for purpose. That inner calm gives you focus. It allows you to move with intention instead of distraction. Ask yourself this: how much peace have you lost by talking too much? How many times have you gone to bed with someone else's words echoing in your head? How often have you let other people's doubt infect your belief in yourself? And how many times have you wished you had just kept quiet? If you felt that weight, you already know the cost of giving away your peace. The truth is, not everyone needs to know your battles. Not everyone deserves to know your victories. Not everyone should have a seat at the table of your life. Some things are meant for you alone, or for the very few people you trust deeply. The rest doesn't need access. The rest doesn't need explanation. When you guard your peace, you protect the clarity that allows you to move forward. When you guard your freedom, you protect the flexibility to live on your terms. That's how you grow, how you build, and how you succeed without carrying unnecessary baggage. So let people wonder, let them guess, let them be curious. You don't owe the world your every detail. You don't owe them access to your every step. What you owe yourself is peace. What you owe yourself is freedom. And both of those come from the discipline of keeping quiet about what doesn't need to be shared. At the end of the day, remember this: peace is your foundation and freedom is your power. If you protect them, you can handle anything. If you lose them, nothing else will feel like enough. Protect them fiercely and watch how much lighter, stronger, and unstoppable you become. You don't need to prove yourself with words. You don't need to hand out explanations for your every move. You don't need to tell the world what you're doing just to feel important. The truth is, real strength doesn't announce itself. It shows itself. Real growth doesn't scream for attention, it makes itself undeniable. Silence protects your power. It shields your vision from doubt. It keeps your energy focused on building instead of defending. When you stop talking and start doing, you stop chasing validation and start creating results. And when you create results, you no longer have to tell people who you are. They will see it for themselves. So protect your peace, guard your freedom, keep your plans sacred until they're strong enough to stand on their own. Let your actions be your voice. Let your results be your introduction. Let your success be your proof. Because in the end, people may forget what you said. They may doubt what you promised, but they will never be able to deny what you've done. Move in silence, build in silence, and let the noise come when you've already won.